Today we're talking about Power Rangers RPM.
Yeah, what does that stand for? Rangers per Malkovich?
I don't want to see an ordinary film. I want to see something extraordinary.
Your sacrifice completes my sanctuary of 1,000 testicles.
You ever feel as if your mind had started to erode?
Welcome to 1000 Wives of Weird, the podcast which is a celebration of weird film. But today, in a rare instance, we're not necessarily talking about a movie. We are talking about...
I mean, we're not talking... It's not necessarily... It's not like, we're talking about a short film. I don't know if you would necessarily call it... This is not a movie.
It's an episode of
way,
television.
Shape, or form.
Episodes are like little movies. In the sense that movie, the term movie is derived from
moving
picture.
Okay,
there are moving pictures involved.
Yeah, no, we're going to get into a lot of semantics. This is an episode of Power Rangers written by Umberto Eco.
But yes, this is going to be an episode.
I guess Umberto Eco dealt more in semiotics, but
you
didn't
know enough about Umberto Eco to correct you. So,
do you know who Umberto Eco is?
Not off the top of my head.
That's fine.
Okay, I know that I've heard of him. I just don't know why.
It's a name that haunts your dreams.
I had another Umberto Eco dream. Yeah, that's right. You clicked on the Power Rangers episode. We're talking about Umberto Eco. Power Rangers, for those who don't know, is a martial arts superhero mech fighting kaiju show for kids in America. It's an example of the Japanese tokusatsu genre.
Sure.
Back in the 90s, someone realized they could make a special effects show for kids on the cheap by taking, legally, they didn't steal it, but by taking footage from a pre-existing Japanese show in which characters are fully masked in costume and just replacing the footage of their secret identity personas with American actors. Therefore, they can just have a bunch of American teenagers running around being like, oh no, I better transform into a superhero to fight a monster.
Yeah.
And then they can cut to already shot gorgeous footage of a bunch of Japanese stuntmen in costumes fighting big old monsters. And that is essentially what Power Rangers is.
Yes.
Every season, just like its source material, a tokusatsu show from Japan called Super Sentai is an entirely new story. It's essentially like an anthology in the same vein as American Horror Story, where they're each their own story, but at the same time, there's also this loose continuity so characters from individual seasons can still interact with each other and have superhero team-ups and stuff like that.
I love to hate Ryan Murphy.
Yes, I know
so
you do.
I would love to see the dumb shit he does with Power Rangers. Like, that would be fucking amazing.
It's
emphasis on the fucking, because I'm sure there'd be a lot of fucking in those suits.
I was gonna say it's just gonna be Power Rangers, but with more sex.
Yes,
and like the big bad guy is just like, a gimp.
There'll be a plot line for a couple episodes, and we'll say fuck it, even though it's a anthology show, and maybe make your plots run most of the season, or just like don't drop interesting shit, or just like make a good show.
What's the name of this guy again?
Ryan Murphy.
Ryan Murphy. Another thing about Ryan Murphy is that he's one of these creators who always uses the same people. Yeah. So you're getting Kathy Bates as Rita Repulsa, and I am entirely on board for that.
Who would Sarah Paulson play?
Sarah Paulson would play Divatox.
Is that a Pokemon?
I guess this is as good as
that like a Muck evolution?
Muck, Digivolve to Divatox.
No.
I'm from space, but I'm obsessed with American currency.
It's a coughing evolution where it's just a disco ball that spews poisonous gas.
Just spews poisonous gas. Sure, why not? I grew up watching Power Rangers. I am absolutely
obsessed. So did I. I just
obsessed
let
with
it
the
go
show
eventually.
Yeah, most people just kind of move on from the show. It's a very silly, stupid program, but I am absolutely obsessed with it to this day. I own multiple seasons on DVD, including the episode we're talking about today. You might be wondering why we're talking about Power Rangers episode here. This is partially inspired by last week when we were talking about Paddington 2, and Brad was super excited about talking about Paddington 2 because it's something that's very close and dear to his heart. And I mentioned that in that episode that while I cry at Paddington 2, that shouldn't necessarily be a marker of how easy it is to cry Paddington 2 because I cry at fucking Power Rangers.
I recently described you to another friend as a weepy boy.
That's accurate. I am a very weepy boy. I am a weepy boy. But yeah,
I think it was in reference to our chat about Paddington 2 and being like,
Sure.
I cried, Billy cried. Billy's a weepy boy.
yeah, it's never impressive when you tell someone, "Oh, this made Billy cry."
Yeah.
It's no. I started thinking about that and thinking about the episode of Power Rangers that had actually made me cry the most, and thinking about what a weird artifact of children's television this episode, Dr. K from the season entitled Power Rangers
Dr.
RPM.
Ketamine.
Dr. Ketamine. Dr. Kryptonite. How weird this episode is, and since we talked about something so near and dear to Brad's heart last week, this is episode 49 before we do episode 50, in which I'm going to be dealing with a lot.
Yeah,
I thought it would be nice to have one last day of sanity.
Sure.
For me.
Sure.
And a last day of insanity for Brad, because I'm putting him through this. But
it's 22 minutes, my man.
exactly. That was the other thing. I wasn't putting you through it for too long. What is your experience with Power Rangers?
I watched the first generation of Power Rangers,
the classic Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Saw the film,
the original one or the one from 2017?
the original one.
Okay.
That was like in elementary school, and by the time they sort of gotten, where did they go after that? Space.
After that, it was Zeo. Then it was Turbo. Then it was Space.
Okay. I think I checked out before Zeo.
That makes sense.
I owned a Power Rangers board game.
Oh, I didn't even know there was a Power Rangers board game.
There was.
Shows you what kind of a fake fan I am, I guess.
Damn. But I had no friends, so I had no one to play it with.
Oh.
I bought a lot. My parents got me a lot of board games because I asked for them because they had really cool commercials back in the day.
Yes.
And
90s board game commercials were something else.
And I didn't have any friends.
Yeah.
Sometimes my parents would play with me, but the Power Rangers board game was kind of complex.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Like, I think he only appeared in one episode, but he was in a lot of the marketing and merchandise.
Okay.
The Winged Sphinx dude.
Oh, yeah, he was only in one episode, but they did use him everywhere.
And I was like, oh my God, he's so cool, because I was a little mythology nerd kid.
Sure.
And I was like, where's this guy? But I think he was like the main person you fight. And
in the board game?
Yeah.
That's odd.
And he had like a sliding health gauge thing.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't think I ever read the instructions. I don't think my parents had the patience to deal with this.
Wow.
But yeah, I was a Power Rangers man.
So you're jumping into this in a single episode in the middle of a season from way after you stopped watching the show. Like I said,
over a decade after I stopped watching the show. Like I just
in the era back when Brad was watching it and when the show first came on the air, they did try and have a long-running story arc that ran through every season. Yeah, because they thought that Americans would respond.
Green Ranger coming in. You got the White Ranger coming in. One of them had a knife flute.
The Green Ranger had a knife flute, and he lost it when he became the White Ranger. But his knife...
Oh, I thought he just left it on a train or something.
No, but the White Ranger's knife could talk to him, so it was okay.
I also had a lot of Power Rangers toys. I had that White Tiger.
Yeah.
That big one.
The big White Tiger Zord.
This is how I'm trying to connect with you.
I appreciate it.
On any level.
Hey, I appreciate it. After season 6, which was Power Rangers in Space, they fully adopted the Super Sentai idea of doing an anthology and having every season be a different story.
Gotcha.
So I wasn't technically dropping you into 20 plus years of continuity, but I was definitely dropping you into the middle of a story arc in one of the most complicated seasons of the show. What was your experience watching this? Would you recommend it at all? I don't even know if I can ask if you would recommend it, because, again, you didn't know what was going on.
No, hey, if you were to pick a random episode of Power Rangers Season 76...
Right, yeah.
I don't know, maybe start with number 1? I didn't, like I said, it's 22 minutes of my life. I watched it twice, actually. Started to watch it a third time, I was like... I don't think any more notes are coming. I don't know, man. What do you want from me?
I don't know.
What do you want?
I wanted to do something weird for this episode and try something different. The problem is we didn't actually discuss how our format would be different.
Yeah.
From doing something super different. So I don't know. I guess did you enjoy it? Was it something that you would, based on this episode, would you say like, oh, Power Rangers RPM is a good show?
No.
Okay.
It does not help that this is a show from 2009.
Yes.
And I'm watching it on a very big television that I bought last year or the year before, and it looks like garbage. It looks like hot garbage. Also, in this episode, they don't like... We'll talk about it later. The trappings of Power Rangers from the good old days were not there for me.
I obviously do recommend this episode. This episode is a very odd anomaly in the Power Rangers franchise. Technically, this whole season, or at least the first half of Power Rangers RPM, is a weird anomaly. But I feel like most of the reasons why are summed up in this episode, and I do consider it to be the greatest episode that Power Rangers has ever produced. I will say, for reasons I will get into, the budget for this season had been slashed significantly.
So they decided to do something incredibly complex.
But the quality of the episode, like, even if you watch something from more when I was an actual child, like if you were to watch Power Rangers Time Force, Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, the acting isn't there. The film quality, the film quality, like the camera work, the actual film stock quality of the footage is there. And they definitely spent a lot more money on the show at that point, because that was the height of the show's popularity. At this point...
Really? Time Force, Lightspeed Rescue.
Around that time was
really?
in like the mid 90s, yeah.
That wasn't the mid 90s.
Okay, the late 90s to the early 2000s is when I would say it's the only season of Power Rangers that's really like entered the pop culture zeitgeist in any meaningful way is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, definitely. But
that's why I have all these tattoos of it.
Exactly.
I started getting tattoos when I was 6. Made a lot of good choices.
You kept begging your parents board games and tattoos.
Yes.
Specifically of the Sphinx monster from Power Rangers.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me go a little bit into the backstory of this episode.
Yeah, how do we
Sure. So the main...
Start from the beginning of time.
Okay. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Oh, that's how we're starting.
Every season of Power Rangers, as I said, it's an anthology show. Every season has a different story, but they also all have the same story. Every season is about a team of young people, usually 5 or 6. They get special...
That's way too young. 5 or 6 years old?
In one season...
They're babies!
In one season... There was a Ranger that was like 12. So,
wow.
There is that. But no.
Now I want this baby fighting show. Only babies can sync with the Zords.
Oh, no. I could, in a really dark,
Rugrats 20XDX.
Oh, my God. Really dark, fucked up Roger Corman version of Power Rangers, I can see, like, they're like, oh, no, we need young people because they're the only ones with brains mushy enough that we can...
Let's just anime.
See. That's true. That is, isn't that the plot of Neon Genesis Evangelion or something?
Pretty much.
I haven't seen it.
But I'm talking, like, again, like 5 or 6 years old toddlers.
Oh, okay.
I want this...
Sure.
Like babies.
Sure, yeah, you know, babies.
Baby Sentai.
But yes, young people, usually a team of 5 or 6 young people, either teenagers or young adults, get special devices that are called morphers that allow them, when they say a specific phrase, it's morphin' time, Shazam, Kimota, to turn into colorful karate fighting superheroes that pilot giant robots and fight armies of evil kaiju. They usually have like a home base and they just like fight off all the monsters.
And some sort of Charlie who delivers them. Like from Charlie's Angels?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, there's always some sort of mentor character who's there to just give them
In my day, we
information.
called him Zordon.
Exactly. Zordon's
There was
the most
also a
famous
little prissy robot.
Yeah, Zordon and Alpha 5 are definitely the most iconic mentors.
Alpha 5 had a head like a hamburger.
Alpha 5 did have a head like a hamburger.
I always thought that as a child. That was my deep analysis of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
The actress who played Alpha 5 in
that
the suit...
was a woman?
That was a woman!
You know I come from high society.
I do, yes. Very, very high society.
I went to finishing school.
Yes. Every time you drink a beer, your pinky is always out.
Yes. Yeah. I don't drink beer anymore.
Oh, okay.
That's improper. How blasphemous to have a woman play a robot.
Everyone knows robots are only men.
One day a woman's playing a robot.
Yes.
The next day she's making a robot. then where are we?
Oh man, that's only logic what you just had there. You're spitting straight facts. But yes, they always have some sort of mentor character. The series is usually very light-hearted in tone.
Oh, really? A children's show?
Yes, it's a kids show.
It's sort of like if they only had like 10 minutes on Saved by the Bell.
Which is...
And the other 12 minutes were monsters.
That is kind of the vibe of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It really feels like it's Saved by the Bell, but the characters have less personality.
Yes.
And they only have a couple minutes because they have to fit their story in between pre-existing Japanese footage of monster fights. Over the years, the series has gone a little bit darker here and there as the fandom has grown up.
Yeah.
And the writers have gotten
really, they're
bored with
banking
the
on the
plots.
people staying with the fandom, not continuing to court the younger viewers.
Most of the time they continue to try and court the younger viewers. There have been a couple of times when they have tried to move on from that. One of the weirdest seasons, which I won't talk about too much, but it is Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, where they straight up did an episode that was just James Cameron's Aliens.
Okay.
But with Power Rangers in it.
Has there been a beach Power Rangers where they're always on the beach?
Yes. It's called Power Rangers Ninja Storm. They're all ninjas and surfers at the same time.
And
also dirt bikers.
Are there mechs surfboards?
Their mechs are not surfboards.
Damn it.
I
was
know.
hoping all battles took place on the high seas.
But I believe that their Zord had like a special surfing mode that it could do. Yeah. Zords are the term they have for their mechs. Each individual ship is a Zord. When they combine, they're a Megazord. Very technical terms in this Power Rangers universe. This season, like I said, we're talking about is Power Rangers RPM. Again, very weird season.
Question.
Yes.
Just so I'm clear.
Yes.
Every season is a new story, meaning there is no continuity between seasons.
There's a loose continuity. Again,
okay, so there is some flow
there is
from
some
one
flow
season into another.
Really, the only continuity that exists there is that you are expected to, until very recently, mainly because RPM kind of made it so that you can't go the way they were going. But up until RPM happened, there was this basic idea that every season of Power Rangers happened in this universe, just like maybe last year. Okay. And so, for instance, you would have an episode of Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue where the Lost Galaxy Rangers would cross over, their villain would come back.
So people are just Power Ranging all over.
They're just Power Ranging all over the
place. It's all technically in the same universe.
Exactly. Some seasons will have more connections to other seasons than others. But again, it's kind of like what I hear, at least, from American Horror Story, where you'll just have, like, Kathy Bates will show up and is like, oh, no, I'm not this season's Kathy Bates. I'm actually playing last season's Kathy Bates. There are lots of things in Power Rangers that make me cry. I cry when Bulk and Skull inspire the citizens of Earth to bum rush Dark Spectre. I cry when Captain Mitchell gave up Ryan to Diabolico. But nothing makes me cry harder than this episode.
Diabolico sounds like a luchador.
I wish.
Was there ever a wrestling Power Rangers?
Oh, there hasn't been a wrestling Power Rangers. But in Power Rangers Ninja Storm, the bad guy does wear what looks like a luchador mask the entire time.
Racist.
But he's a ninja and not a luchador.
Oh.
Yeah. So...
Not racist, lame.
Yeah, just
should have been
just
racist.
Lame. There should.
Is my point. Of the two choices, racist or lame.
Oh man, I really want a Luchador Power Ranger series now, though. That sounds awesome. So, as I said, most Power Ranger seasons are just like modern day young people living in a city fighting off monsters. RPM takes place after the end of the world.
Right.
Immediately deviating from the norm.
Confusing.
I'm sure, yeah.
I mean, there is a little blurb in the beginning that's like...
it does establish it.
You have to get to the dome city of Corinth. And wasn't Corinth the city that Oedipus ruled over?
I think you might be right about that. I don't remember that for a fact, but it is definitely like a mythological reference.
So there's a lot of psychosexual stuff going on in here.
Definitely a lot of psychosexual going on in this episode about child abuse, yes. But yes, this season takes place after the apocalypse. There's a very brief blurb at the beginning of the intro that says...
Corinth was not the city that Oedipus ruled over, but is the city that he was raised by his adoptive parents in.
Ah, I see. Very important distinction.
Still,
Still, there's an Oedipal connection there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in the intro it says, "Oh no, this sentient computer virus, Venjix, has created an army of robotic soldiers and taken over our world. Our only refuge is in the dome city of Corinth, and the only hope we have left is Power Rangers RPM!" And then the theme song kicks in. Yeah, that's all the context I gave Brad for this episode.
I don't think you gave me even that.
I mean, you watched the episode, so you got that intro.
Yeah, but you didn't give it to me.
No, I mean, like, I gave you the episode, and I was like, just here, deal with it.
All right. Umberto Eco is very angry.
Some background about this season. This season was the last produced during a brief time when the franchise was owned by Disney. The production team realized that it was most likely their last season because it was the last season that Disney was contractually obligated to make.
Goofy just kept coming around the set with a gun. Yep, hope you're out of here soon.
Apparently Disney hated Power Rangers.
Why'd they buy it then?
I don't know. I think it was part of a package that allowed them to purchase all of Marvel's old cartoons from the Fox Kids staple of TV channels. But yeah, they bought it and they immediately started hating making it. They hired on a new producer to do this last season named Eddie Gazzellian, who all realized that there was a rabid fan base of older Power Rangers fans who were much more dedicated than the younger viewers the show usually tried to market itself towards, and figured that he'd make the last season for them, and also maybe try and get enough of a response to the last season that maybe it wouldn't be the last season. He wrote up an idea for the season story before they even knew what the Sentai footage would look like.
Okay.
He just came up with this idea. Okay, it's a post-apocalyptic Power Rangers. The Black Ranger is Mad Max. The Green Ranger is an ex-con. And
one of them's either Scottish or Irish. I did not listen long enough to really... He had like 2 lines.
There's a lot of meta humor in Power Rangers RPM. In one episode, a bad guy is naming off the stereotypes each Ranger represents. Like, okay, the badass, the leader, the girl, the idiot. Who are you? So, I'm Scottish! And he kicks him in the face.
That's fun.
Yeah. He wrote up this idea without having any idea of what the Sentai footage was going to be. He's like, this is going to be the mature adult Rangers. And then it turned out that the Sentai that they had to use for the season was a broad comedy in which all of the Rangers' equipment, especially their giant robots, have goo-goo eyes on them.
Yeah, with a name like RPM, I'm like, cars.
Yes.
They are cars.
They are cars.
But one of them looks like the Angry Bird.
One of them looks like an Angry Bird. The Yellow Ranger's Zord is a teddy bear with wheels. Like, it's so off-putting, and it's so... Let's face it, ugly. It's so ugly.
Yeah, I would not buy those toys.
No, absolutely not. This is a direct quote from Eddie Gazzellian at the moment that he was finally shown what Sentai footage he had to work with. Holy shit, I just promised Disney I could turn this into a show that would appeal to an older audience. I must be out of my fucking mind. Holy shit, wait, what's that on the front of their Zords? Are those motherfucking eyeballs? But they were already locked in, so they went ahead anyway.
I mean, it's just to clarify something for my own edification.
Sure.
The genre is
Tokusatsu.
Tokusatsu.
Yes. Just Tokusatsu.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Sentai is a specific...
Super Sentai is a specific franchise.
But the word Sentai, like that's... Because I always refer to people who look like Power Rangers as Sentai squads.
That's fair. And Sentai, I believe all that Sentai means in English is like a team. So
the team squad.
The team squad, yeah. Super Sentai is a specific franchise, but it is also used to refer to any show that uses a team of tokusatsu heroes, because tokusatsu doesn't necessarily have to be a team. It can be
like Kamen Rider.
Exactly. It can be like Kamen Rider, which it's either one guy or many guys, depending on the season.
Japan loves the rapper Common.
So
they made an entire long-running manga, anime,
absolutely,
movies.
But it's very embarrassing, but they spelled it slightly wrong.
Yeah.
Ultraman is technically a tokusatsu.
Okay.
One of the first tokusatsus was actually a Japanese version of Spider-Man that we keep saying that we might talk about. Yeah, it's just it's a very popular genre, but if you're talking about a team show, you're talking about Sentai.
Gotcha.
And if you're talking about Super Sentai, you're talking about this specific franchise that has been run by this one company for years.
Gotcha.
But yes.
That company is actually Toei, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Toei. Exactly.
One of the really big Japanese studios.
One of the biggest. And I believe that the fact that the Zords had Goo Goo Eyes on them is when they first came up with the idea, what if instead of their mentor being an older figure who's like imparting this fatherly or motherly wisdom to them, as it is in most seasons, we're going to have their mentor or their Charlie be no older than they are. And they came up with the character of Dr. K, who is...
Dr. K seemed a little older.
I believe that the actress is older than she's supposed to be playing, but in universe, she's supposed to be the same age, if not younger, than they are.
Now I feel a little gross.
The actress that they picked to play it was actually a known... Power Rangers is made in New Zealand because Disney moved the production there to get around unions, because Peter Jackson fucked over New Zealand actors when he was making the Hobbit movies.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, cool dude, R. Peter Jackson.
R.I. Peter Jackson.
They cast a well-known child actress from New Zealand to play the part.
Gotcha.
So she's known as Crying Girl on Horse in Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers.
Oh.
Very popular character, Crying Girl on Horse.
I've written many a fanfic.
Yes, Lord of the Rings, your favorite film franchise.
Yes. I haven't seen it. Won't see it. I
know.
probably will see it at some point.
At some point. Well, you'll be just hanging out with somebody someday and be too polite not to tell them to turn it off.
If I ever have like a partner who's like, I really want to watch Lord of the Rings with you,
Sure.
I'd be like, sure. This isn't worth a fight. This isn't a stand I need to take anymore.
Right.
But if anyone's like, hey, you want to watch Lord of the Rings? I'll probably be like, no.
Yeah, if you have the option.
And then I'll explain my weird reasons why I won't.
I think they're perfectly reasonable reasons. This isn't a Lord of the Rings episode, but yeah. So we've already kind of talked about the intro, but yes, the few survivors of the systematic extinction of the human race all live in one city, Corinth, dome structure protected by the Power Rangers. Dr. K developed the morphers.
Another thing that really confused me.
Yes.
This is Earth?
This is Earth.
Okay.
This is on Earth. Everyone on Earth is dead except for the citizens of this one city.
Gotcha.
Yes. So already starting off on a super dark note.
So we can assume that all the former Power Rangers who gave up being a Power Ranger are now dead.
They're
in a
all
grave.
hella dead. Either all of them are hella dead, or everyone in this city is a retired Power Ranger. Because again...
I mean, it's been going on for a while.
Yeah, like 20 plus years at the point that this season came out. So...
Oh, you know what? I want a Power Rangers movie in the style of John Wick.
My God.
We're just like, everyone's a fucking Power Ranger.
Oh my God. I would die. So Dr. K, the actress playing Dr. K, is Olivia Tennant. Up until...
Sister of David Tennant.
Exactly. Sisters don't get N's in as many N's in their names as their brothers.
She's not actually David Tennant's sister.
No, she's
that we know of.
That we know of. She could be. She could be his identical cousin.
We could all be David Tennant's sister and not know it.
Man, I hope I'm David Tennant's sister.
I'd love that. I'd love that for you.
Yeah.
I'd love that for me. I'd love that for anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can come over and be quirky.
Yeah. He'll be like just disarmingly charming, wearing velvet suits. It'll be great. But yeah, so up until this point in the season, Dr. K only spoke to the Rangers through a big screen that had a K on it.
When you lifted up your hands.
Yes, I
to
did.
show
to display the big screen
size
with a K
of the screen.
On it. Yeah.
Oh, so you didn't see your face. This is the first time you saw Dr. K's face?
This is not the first time that you saw Dr. K's face. Her face was revealed, I think, 2 episodes prior to this. But it was like a big sort of like, don't look at the little girl behind the curtain sort of scenario.
God. I thought you were going to say, when you lifted your hands like that, a boombox. And just like one, like an armed guard would come out, like a hype man, like Radio Raheem with the boombox, and just be like, because she's supposed to be younger.
One slice.
She's supposed to be younger. She's hipper. She knows what the kids like in 2009. Right. And it's ghetto blasters.
She really would have been Charlie at that point. She's like, hey, we got a message from Charlie here. That's a scenario that we come into this episode with. The world is dead, except for the humans all in this one city who are all New Zealanders, desperately trying to hide their New Zealand accents.
In the world of Power Rangers RPM.
Yes.
How many people, during the mass extinction of the human race, do you think thought this was like the end times, like the biblical rapture?
Sure.
And just turned out to be robots?
I mean, the Power Rangers universe is weird enough that I can imagine that a couple people probably had just a flash of light and disappeared, and people were
you
like,
think...
"Oh, hey, there was a rapture," but it was actually just some completely unrelated shit.
They were
that
just
was
being
going
teleported.
On. They were being teleported somewhere.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, the world is dead. Robots are constantly attacking the city. The city has a force shield, so only a couple monsters can come through the shield at a time.
A convenient amount of monsters.
Convenient amount of monsters for this situation
it would seem
of the week
like
show.
More monsters would mean that monsters would get through, not like just send one in at a time.
You would think, but yes, no, we have to stick to the rules of the Power Rangers episode, which are we only get one monster an episode, we get one general, like a sort of acolyte of the villain who is in multiple episodes as opposed to the monsters.
Yes.
And we get a handful of foot soldiers, putties from the original show. In this one, they're just a bunch of angry robot people with gears on them. Very, very steampunk.
We don't even see them in this episode.
Yes, we do.
We don't get to see the Rangers fight them.
Yeah, we do.
Do we?
Very briefly, but yes. There's
Must
actually
have been really briefly.
Yeah.
Because
there's a surprising lack of action in this episode.
Yeah, and that was one of the things where I was like, I don't even get the goon fight.
Right, yeah.
So that's what I was talking about, like the trappings of Power Rangers that I expect.
The episode plays lip service to the normal trappings of Power Rangers. Again, you normally have like some sort of like interpersonal conflict that's super low stakes. You get a word from the mentor, oh no, the bad guys are attacking. You get a bunch of goons that the Power Rangers plow through really easily to show off their martial arts skills. Then there's a monster with a very specific power and a very specific weakness. They defeat the monster comes back, but bigger. They get their mechs out, they fight it, end of episode. That's the normal Power Rangers formula. This episode has all of those elements technically, but it kind of shoves those to the side and is sort of like, hey, Power Rangers, this is happening. This is the main story.
It's Power Rangers jazz. Just like Shin Godzilla was kaiju jazz.
Yeah.
This is Power Rangers jazz. It's about the notes they're not playing.
It's about the notes they're not playing. Exactly.
Well, thank God. Thank God Miles Davis died on the cross for Power Rangers RPM. Able to play the variations.
When I think of Power Rangers music, there are two people I think of, Ron Wasserman and Miles Davis.
Just really, Power Rangers is the perfect embodiment of the soul of Harlem.
Yes, the Power Ranger, the show that famously had a black ranger in its first season, sparking a huge controversy, and then years later compounded the error by having its first black ranger in years be a actual thief in the storyline. You're
the
also
soul
forgetting
of Harlem. The Asian Yellow Ranger.
Yeah. No, that also is a thing that they did. They never did another one of those.
Good.
They also
good.
They also had a Native American Red Ranger. Yeah.
Red Ranger, let strangers be danger.
After all of this, finally we get to the actual episode.
Yes.
We open on Dr. K, their mentor, playing a violin alone in her lab.
And she's playing a white violin.
Yes.
And I wondered if this was a reference to the Umbrella Academy. The comic, obviously.
It could be. This story feels like a story from the Umbrella Academy. This episode does.
It sort of does.
Yeah. There's a lot of similar themes.
The first run of Umbrella Academy was late 2007 to early 2008. And it very prominently featured... It's been a while since I read it. And
a character with some white violin imagery.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And this episode aired in May 2009.
Yes.
It's not impossible.
Honestly, I was thinking a lot about Umbrella Academy while watching this episode.
Yeah.
Just because of the thematic similarities. I kind of am on board with this. I think that it's very possible.
I bet Gerard Way was on set.
God, I hope so.
Just supervising the whole thing, I bet he was a secret EP the entire time.
I want Gerard Way to be involved in a season of Power Rangers in some way.
Sure.
I don't know how.
Write him a letter. Just write him a letter and say, do this.
Have a season of Power Rangers themed around the music videos that he did for the last My Chemical Romance album, where they had all those music videos with the laser guns and what's his name? Grant Morrison was playing this big bad guy in their music videos.
Oh, that's fun.
That would be great. That video is almost a Power Rangers episode anyway. Just do that. She's startled in the middle of her playing by the Yellow Ranger, Summer, played by Rose McIver, who's actually gone on to be a pretty popular actress since then.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Most Power Rangers actors don't get a big career afterwards.
No,
but,
they don't.
She's broken that curse. She was in iZombie for many years as the lead.
Oh, great.
She's
I've never watched 1 second of that television program.
I think it's on a show on NBC, Ghosts.
I've heard it's CBS. People
CBS.
like that Ghost show.
I've heard that the British version is better, but yeah. A lot of things get made in New Zealand these days, again, because they don't have unions. Not entirely because of Peter Jackson, but he helped intentionally.
Peter
on purpose.
Jackson,
He did it on purpose.
Peter Jackson, the last Pinkerton agent. I'll bust a union for you. Don't you worry.
I kick ass for the bourgeoisie. We are confronted by the stilted way Dr. K talks to people. She says, instead of saying thank you, Summer, when Summer tells her that they're ready for the briefing, she just says, thank you, Ranger Series Yellow.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was, again, because I had no context. It was like, is that how they're referred to?
That's how Dr. K refers to them always.
Gotcha.
It is technically their official designation, Ranger Series Black, Ranger Series Red, Ranger Series whatever, but she's the only one who always refers to them by that until, again, slight spoilers, I guess, later in the season when she goes through some development. As Summer leaves the room, we see that the, up until this episode, incredibly stoic and irascible and very sort of like, kind of like almost a bully that the Rangers were sort of like always needling.
Yeah.
Dr. K is crying.
Single tear.
Cut to the Castle of Venjix.
Ooh.
Because even though Venjix is a sentient computer, essentially Skynet or what was the one from Tron a couple weeks ago? Or a couple months ago, whenever we were
Master Control,
MCP. Even though he's supposed to be this logical, evil computer, he is extra as hell. And he made himself a whole castle with gears and shit.
Yeah.
And,
because that's what computers like.
That's what he's into.
Yeah.
That's what he's into.
Every computer loves clockwork. It's like having your grandfather's bones power the place.
Oh my god, I'd love to have a house powered by my grandfather's bones.
Which grandfather? You have to pick one.
Oh man, I'm not going to go into that.
Okay.
Venjix is in their big castle. He's got a whole bunch of generals, again, bunch of Power Rangers cliches. And he says, "Welcome to the final nightmare of the living, my Reflex Bot 12."
And it's a little medicine cabinet.
Yeah, it's a little robot holding a medicine cabinet, complete. Except, unlike most medicine cabinets, its mirror is on the inside.
Mm-hmm. That's what makes it so diabolical.
Yes, it's
and all the medicine is on the outside.
And every time he opens it, all the medicine falls off. It's a big robot with a opening mirror in its chest,
and it can do its echo. It has the Sharingan eye, whatever the fuck that Naruto bullshit is.
You're out of my league here.
But it can copy people's moves. It's Taskmaster.
Yes, that's Taskmaster. Yes, I understood that reference. As we watch and listen to these characters, we realize two things: no matter how dark the show gets, it's still a kid's show, and the sense of humor of this series is very stupid.
It is.
Yeah.
But there's a terrible actress.
Yes.
What was her deal?
Did
they just need somebody?
At this point in the season, all we know about her is that she is another one of Venjix's generals, and he made one of his robots look like a person. There are plot developments later in the season, but they don't really apply here.
Okay, I was more like, why is this actress so bad?
Honestly, the acting in this season is stronger than any other season of Power Rangers that's ever been made.
Really?
Power Rangers has famously bad acting.
Yeah, no, yeah.
As a fan of the show, really, really bad acting.
You watch it more for the tight-bodied young teens than anything else. And by teens, I mean people who are 24 years old.
Right. Yeah. No, I watch it for the skin-tight jumpsuits and motorcycle helmets. It's a very specific fetish of mine. Cut back to Rangers HQ and the briefing. Dr. K is filling the Rangers in, and the head of humanity's remaining military forces, Colonel Mason Truman, on the fact that Venjik's scientific abilities have begun to surpass hers, and she fears that the battle is one that they are fated to lose.
It's almost like the stakes have never been higher.
Ziggy, the Green Ranger.
Yeah. Oh, is that?
That's his name. Ziggy.
I thought that was the actor's name, Ziggy Grover or something like that.
No, that's the character's name.
Thank God. Thank fucking Christ.
You thought some poor human being was saddled with the name Ziggy Grover?
Or even worse, they chose it.
The name
like that was their stage name.
The name
like
of
their
two,
nom de film.
The name of two Muppets glued together. Ziggy Grover. The actual...
No, that's the time David Bowie visited Sesame Street and Grover
got the lightning bolt on his face.
Yeah, technically Aladdin Sane, but you know.
Yeah, there you go. The Green Ranger, Ziggy, as I said, is played by an actor named...
There's a Starman!
There's a ranger in space! Played by Milo Cawthorn, who a couple years after the show wrapped, actually married Olivia Tennant.
Great.
They were married for 3 years, and then they broke up. But for a while, that was very cute.
For a while, they were fucking.
For a while, they were indeed fucking. But yes, Ziggy tells Dr. K that she can't be so cynical. We're the good guys. We'll win through. Again, playing on the tropes of Power Rangers. He says, their stuff can't be better than our stuff. We're the good guys, right? And Dr. K says that the only way that they could possibly improve their tech would be to make the Zords be able to combine into a different Megazord than the Megazords they already have.
So I was a little confused on this.
Okay, go ahead.
Can they not all combine together? Can they only combine into like...
Up until this point in the show, the red, yellow, and blue Ranger Zords could all combine into one Megazord.
And then the other group
and
into
the black
another.
And the Green Rangers could combine into a different Megazord.
That's what I thought.
Yes, and then she's saying we could maybe beat more of these monsters if we could get all of the machines to combine together, but I haven't figured out how to do that.
Because we need another Buckaroo Banzai Overthruster.
Exactly, that's exactly right. There's a lot of tech jargon here.
Oh, so much,
so much
deep.
It's
very
honestly
convincing, very compelling.
Honestly, a little irritating.
It's like reading hard sci-fi.
Yeah, it's a lot of.
It's literally like, we need another battery.
Yeah, eventually that's what it comes down to, but there's a lot of like, we need the multimodal reflection sorting with the reversing the polarity of the neutron flow and all that shit.
Yeah.
Before they get and then they finally have the, excuse me, doctor, what are you saying? And she's like, hey, we need a new thingamawhatsit for my table. I have one thingamawhatsit, I need a different thingamawhatsit. But we only have the one thingamawhatsit, and we don't have anything to make a new thingamawhatsit. So the Rangers are all like really upset about this. They're all freaking out. They're yelling. And Ziggy's like, hey,
we're gonna die. We're mortal. Oh man!
And
the follies of flesh.
Ziggy tells everyone.
Everyone's
to shut
reading Camus, Sartre.
Black Ranger's just reading Blood Meridian and getting bad ideas in the corner. But
things could get wild in this city. Like once they realize that Dr. K is like 6 years old.
Exactly. Yeah, the Rangers
then,
the Rangers and the head of the military are the only people who know that at this point in the show. So yeah, if that information got out, that could actually be very bad.
Then it becomes Dr. Strangelove, where
we're
taking
almost
over the base.
This is the idea of the city of Corinth is almost like the plan that Dr. Strangelove has at the end of that movie, to be honest. Just with less fucking.
Yeah.
But we don't have the American Horror Story guy yet.
No.
But yes.
Soon. I'm texting.
Good. This is very important.
We're both named... no, I was thinking of his partner, Brad Falchuk.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah. Everyone named Brad knows each other, and we all have each other's numbers. So I'm texting Brad Falchuk and being like... Hey, I know we haven't talked in a while. Can I have Ryan Murphy's number?
Do we know any Brads who know My Chemical Romance that we can get them roped in on this? I imagine Brad Dourif hangs out with them all the time.
That's Brad Dourif.
Yes.
Any other famous Brad?
The Brad who's married to
Brad
George
Pitt or
Takei.
Brad Cooper. Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Brad Takei, I assume, is his last name.
I would hope so.
I would hope so.
For piety's sake.
But yeah, Ziggy tells everyone to shut up because he's got a very important question. Are we or are we not the good guys?
And that's a deep question for the show
Yeah.
to ask.
Very deep.
But also, their enemies are killbots that wiped out humanity.
Right.
So I'd say that, like, this is not a matter of gray. They're the bad guys, and the Power Rangers are the good guys.
Yeah. I think that you're probably right, but Ziggy.
Probably.
I think that you probably. I think
you
have.
think these.
I think there's a germ of
bot
truth.
Plague.
I think there's a germ of truth in what you're saying. Is all I'll give you. I think that both sides have good points.
One of them's a HAL ripoff. The other is humanity.
Yeah. No, for real though, I forgot to mention that the bad guy is literally a HAL ripoff. He's literally a big red light in a tower. But yes, it says, are we or are we not the good guys? Because if we're the good guys, we're supposed to win. Why aren't we winning? Dr. K looks at him dumbfounded, but with a weird sense of admiration, and asks, "What's it like being stupid your whole life? Is it as wonderful as it seems?" And there's something about that line that really affects me.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. It's ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
I just came up with that.
This is the first time those words have ever been put together.
Yeah.
Is right there. You came up with ignorance is bliss.
Mm-hmm.
Buckaroo Banzai came up with wherever you go, there you are.
Yes.
But I love that the way that it's... Because, again, Dr. K's up until this point has been, like, throwing insults at the Rangers all the time, especially at Ziggy.
She's like Rudy Ray Moore, just going out into the crowd and be like, Ma, I'm going to hit you with her titty.
Shut up, shut your ugly ass, old ass up. That's exactly Dr. K, what Dr. K's like. But
she's like that and a little bit of Don Rickles.
It's a little bit of Don Rickles. Just like always edging towards racism, but keeps talking about how much he loves everyone. So
always
it's okay.
name dropping Frank Sinatra.
Always.
Who got fucking double tapped by some killbot.
Is Frank Sinatra?
No, I believe
Frank Sinatra survived until the apocalypse in this universe.
In this universe,
in this universe specifically.
I'm thinking he died when I was like in elementary school, so he would be very aged at this point.
He was very aged.
He probably begged them for death.
He was in a floating wheelchair like Dr. Smythe and Spider-Man. The way that Dr. K words this, though, it could just be another insult, but she says it with such like admiration.
Yeah, because like again, this character's living in this fantasy world where it's like, we're the good guys, we have to win. Where it's like, it's not how God operates.
Yeah.
God needs deep ironies.
But again, like, this kind of irony, as you mentioned, like, this kind of saying one thing but meaning another is usually completely lost on the writers of Power Rangers. Mm-hmm. This is a whole new thing. They
brought Billy Wilder in for this season.
Exactly. Who in the Power Rangers universe is also still alive.
Yes. And again, just decrepit as fuck.
Just decrepit as
and he's
fuck.
Like 200 years old, and they're trying to explain to him what Power Rangers is. Trying to fucking explain Zords. And they didn't bring him, like, they always had him in the chamber. Saban had him in a basement.
Right.
They got him in one of those, like, storage locker auctions.
It's kind of...
And just the cryogenically frozen body of Billy Wilder was in there.
That big blue tube Zordon was in, that's real. They had just had Billy Wilder in
and
there.
Finally they wiped it off. And oh my God, Titan of early cinema... Billy Wilder, not a Titan of early cinema.
Titan of
40s
cinema.
to 60s.
Titan of cinema in
general,
Titan of
I
cinema.
think.
Yeah.
And then they explain to this confused man, just like, they fight, they get into machines, an automobile.
Yeah. In this season, our Power Rangers RPM, again, trying desperately in the year of our Lord 2009, trying to be a more adult series. What shows are they going to ape? In 2009, they decided to ape the format of Lost. So every episode of this show, including this one, up until a certain point, about halfway through the season when they ran out of material for this, is like Lost, cut half between the present day action and a series of flashbacks describing how what the lives of these characters were like before the apocalypse happened. This is why every episode of the season up until and including this one are named after a character, because they're all the story of this character, this character, this character. And now we get the story of Dr. K. This is also where shit goes way off the rails.
We should also mention that Dr. K created Special K. And I'm not talking about ketamine this time. I'm talking about the cereal.
The cereal. That was an early success of Dr. K. Yes.
That's what actually got her recruited.
That's what got her recruited as...
How can a cereal that tastes this good be this so low in whatever the fuck it's supposed to be low in?
Low in bad thing.
Low in bad things. Oh, man. We should be marketing executives.
We pick up the flashbacks with Dr. K as a little girl attempting to play with chalk. Mm-hmm. But her computer-like brain doesn't allow her to simply play. Instead, she immediately starts solving complex equations, Good Will Hunting style, all across the sidewalk.
Appropriate of nothing, like just...
No, that's just how her brain works. She can't draw anything unless it's an equation.
And some government honkies show up toot sweet.
Now, actually, we never get to see what race these people are. Oh, do we?
Yes, we get a from behind shot.
Oh, yes.
And we see that they are...
see their hands.
We can see their necks. We can see a bit of the side of their face.
Okay. Yeah, but we never actually see the faces.
They're honkies.
They're definitely honkies, but we never get to see the actual faces of any of these
No, they're like
government
Nanny
agents.
and the Muppet Babies.
Exactly. But again, this is a weird amount of artistry for Power Rangers, a show that is normally like, hey, let's get a wide shot so we can see all the fighting taking place. The show is normally very standard in that way. This is the only time I've ever seen in Power Rangers where they actually put any thought into the mise-en-scène. The fact that you never get to see these government agents' faces in full going forward throughout this entire episode gives them an air of menace not usually seen in this show.
Yeah, and there's also sort of a metatextual joke that's coming up where these agents are going to take Dr. K. Mm-hmm. I guess she wasn't... I mean, she's going to be raised in a facility. Do you think she ever actually got her doctorate? Like an official doctorate?
I mean, that's a good question. But Dr. Frankenstein is still called Dr. Frankenstein, and he never finished school, so...
True.
Yeah. Either way.
They're going to take pre-Dr. K to a facility which they call the Alphabet Soup.
Yes.
And this is a reference to the variety of abbreviated organizations, CIA, FBI, NSA, all of that. Like, the Alphabet Boys.
Right. I have heard of that. That didn't come to mind when I was watching this.
Yeah, it's sort of again, Umberto Eco is in the corner. He's nodding at me. He's like... they call it the Alphabet Soup because they're not going to identify any one organization. It's just everybody. Everybody's abducting chalk children these days.
Absolutely, and
they're going to harvest that adrenochrome.
We can assume also that there are other children in this facility that have different letter designations. She has been given the designation of K, the letter K.
Oh, it's the MIBs.
It's the MIBs. So, yeah, we can assume that there's a young Will Smith somewhere who's been given the designation of J.
Yes.
Young Tommy Lee Jones somewhere who's also been given K, I guess. I know a young Tommy Lee Jones is hard to imagine, but just imagine.
No, I just love this time compression where young Tommy Lee Jones exists concurrently with young Will Smith.
Absolutely.
And also young Dr. K, famous historical figure.
Dr. K, pre-Dr. K.
Pre-Dr. K.
But yes, so this young child...
Currently Dr. K through 12.
But yes, this young child who is the most famous child in the world because she invented Special K at a young age, has been recruited by the government, and we can presume... More Shanghai. Yeah.
I don't know if that's an inappropriate term these days.
I don't know. Most press ganged. I think that's a good term for it. She's been pressed into servitude by the government, and she's in this sort of military bunker where they keep her locked up, and they have given her Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Yeah, they tell her she's allergic to sunlight.
They tell her she's allergic to sunlight and she has to stay inside the bunker. What they're doing for her is for her own good, even though all she wants is to see the sun.
She gets cake once a year.
She gets cake once a year on her birthday. This is mostly a device so we can chart the years going by, see how old she's getting.
Letting the days go by, water flowing. Talking Heads, everyone in the band, David Byrne and the rest, huge Power Rangers fans.
Huge Power Rangers fans. Ron Wasserman, Miles Davis, Talking Heads, David Byrne's on the Talking Heads, all Power Rangers supergroups. While they have her in this base, they have her crack coded messages, develop missile guidance systems, and there's even a reference to something that sounds like they're having her make biological weapons. Again, some fucked up dark shit for Power Rangers.
Just a regular child labor sweatshop.
Yeah.
Nikes, bioweapons, what have you.
Her only outlet, as we see in this flashback, aside from her work, is that she is given... Yes, she's given some musical instruments. She's given the violin, of course, as we saw.
Keyboard.
And a keyboard, yes. She's doing all sorts of 80s keyboard solos.
Yeah. I wish they gave her like a keyboard every birthday, and she had like one of those super prog setups where she's just surrounded by keyboards.
Oh my god, I would love that. There is sort of a sinister, subtle element to this. I don't know if this was intentional, but throughout the episode, this part is intentional, we see that when she's playing her violin, when she's playing the piano, her musical instruments are tied to her equipment. When she's playing the music, she's also manipulating the computers in some way. I
didn't notice that.
Yeah, and there is a part of me that wonders, was this environment so abusive that the only way she could convince them to allow her to use this stuff is if she could somehow tie it into the work they were giving her.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's more thought than the writers gave it, my friend.
I don't know. I mean, again, this episode has a weird amount of thought put into it for a Power Rangers episode.
You think this was someone's magnum opus? You think this was someone's like...
I know that, I forget his name now, but the producer who made this season and was like, he really was very intent upon making this a really good thing, like a really solid season of television. He really wanted this to be something special. Unfortunately, resulted in a lot of script delays because he was like just trying to make this thing work.
Gotcha.
Finally, we get to the end of this flashback, and she's looking like she does in the present day. She's looked like the actress playing her. She is asked by her handlers for a birthday wish. And in a line that absolutely destroys me every time I hear it, she says, "I wish I could remember my name."
Yeah, that was a good line.
Yeah.
What do you think her real name was? Horsey Lou?
I want to imagine it
Fartsy?
Was a K name, but there's no way to tell. I'm going to say...
Keurig.
Calliope with a K. Just because I think that'd be pretty.
I'm going to say all the names I previously said.
All of them at once.
Yep.
So that was... What names did you say?
Horsey Lou.
Horsey Lou.
Fartsy. And I don't remember after that.
Pippi Longstocking.
Sure.
All of those names and more. And also every name given to any of the characters in Up. Dr. K is snapped out of her memories by the sounds of another Vengeance attack.
Oh no.
The Rangers shout their morphing phrase, "RPM, get in gear!" and drive their Zords, which as we've mentioned are giant animal-themed vehicles with googly eyes on them, towards the threat.
What do you think the carbon emissions on these are?
Insanely high.
Yeah.
Because
especially it's in a dome
exactly,
city.
So
my god.
Like it's amazing that anyone's still alive in the city with the amount of secondhand carbon monoxide they're breathing in.
This is just
this is essentially a big garage that they're all living in.
Oh, this is like the opening of Midsummer times 1,000
times 1,000,000. The exact number of how many people are in Corinth is never stated in the show, so they can keep playing with the idea of how many people were actually murdered by the robots. They never explicitly state how many people were actually killed because it's Power Rangers and they can only go so far. But
you wish
I wish we had numbers.
You wish every episode ended with like a scrolling list of names of the fallen.
Oh my god, yes, exactly.
I want to do like a...
Not only the fall, in every episode there's more names because people were stepped on by the monsters or the Zords or shit like that.
We should do the dark, gritty, True Detective Tokusatsu-ban? Tokusatsu-ban.
I think it's just Tokusatsu.
Tokusatsu-ban.
Okay. The company that started Power Rangers was called Saban.
Yes.
Named after Haim Saban.
That band, Haim Saban.
Yeah.
Those sisters.
those sisters, Haim and Saban. They combine their Zords into the 2 Megazord forms that they have available to them.
The 2 separate forms.
2 separate forms. And I think that I have to correct myself. I think that you're right. We don't get a goon fight in this.
We don't.
Because this is all Zord fighting.
Because... Whoa, the Rangers don't even fight some goons before they get into their bots?
No, this is an all Zord episode, which they have done all Zord episodes in previous seasons, including in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Okay.
They have almost never been my favorite episodes because I like martial arts.
Yeah.
We both like martial arts.
You want to see some bog standard underpaid stuntmen in Lycra. Just taking a shot to the jaw.
I mean, in this era of the show, it was not uncommon for there to have a lot of wire foo and shit.
Really?
In
That's
Power Rangers.
Fun.
The martial arts in Power Rangers is actually no joke. Like they have some pretty legit fight scenes.
I'm sorry to insult your religion.
Essentially, I am literally wearing a Power Rangers themed belt as we say.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but yeah, Dr. K warns the Rangers that the Reflex Bot, as you mentioned earlier, can recreate things that are seen in its mirror. Just after she says this, it opens its mirror and replicates both of the weapons on the arms of the Megazords.
Big gun.
A big gun and a big knife or something. I think
something.
I don't remember.
Wow, you love this episode so much.
Yes. Honestly, there are so many seasons of Power Rangers and so many giant robots within those seasons that a lot of them kind of blend together in my head.
You've seen so much shit.
I've seen so many giant robots. It's like war, exactly.
So many of your friends have died right beside you.
Died right beside me watching Power Rangers.
When you get off the plane after coming home from watching Power Rangers, people spit on you. They call you baby killer.
Happy Memorial Day, everyone. Reflex Bot uses the Rangers' weapons against them, shatters the Zords into their component pieces with almost one hit each, which is pretty pathetic, Power Rangers. Get your act together. The Ranger, but just before it can actually kill the Rangers, it has some sort of catastrophic systems failure.
Some sort of robo-heart attack.
Robo-heart attack and just dies. Conveniently, because it's a Power Rangers monster, shrinking itself back down to human size as it dies, so that when Dr. K says, hey, bring me that robot so I can look at it, they can put it on a gurney and wheel it right into her laboratory so she can do some research. Because normally when Power Rangers defeat monsters, they blow up. So she doesn't usually get to look at a corpse of a robot. We get another flashback to Dr. K being used to develop government-issue Ranger technology. As part of Alphabet Soup. Mm-hmm. She's introduced to 2 other members of the Alphabet Soup team, the annoyingly chipper and slightly psychic twins, Gem and Gemma.
Yeah! Gem and Gemma.
What were your thoughts on Gem and Gemma?
See, Gem and Gemma are Asian.
Yes, they are.
And I feel like they made that choice to cast Asian actors to add to the weirdness of it.
Could be.
To add to the... Because these characters are meant to be off-kilter.
Yes, they are. Yeah,
and again, I feel like they were...
They do that gimmick where 2 twins are constantly finishing each other's sentences. That is mostly in TV and not actually how real twins act in real life.
I just feel like they were exploiting foreignness to convey a different type of foreignness. So that bothered me.
I did not have that read, but that's not outside the realm of possibility. As we have mentioned already in this episode, Power Rangers has an unfortunate history of not having the best takes when it comes to race.
Yeah.
Again, the first Red Ranger to be played by a black actor, ex-con character, is like the one Red Ranger who's an ex-con. It just happens to be the black one.
And the Red Ranger is always the king.
The Red Ranger is the leader of the team, yeah. Unless you're in a season with Tommy in it, in which case it doesn't matter what color Ranger he is, he's the leader of the team because people
Tommy unites us all.
Can't fucking get over Jason David Frank. People just love Jason David Frank. Everyone except for Jean-Claude Van Damme, who once assaulted Jason David Frank in a hallway. Yes. But yeah, Jem and Gemma are these two characters that are pretty divisive among the fan base.
The fan base has opinions about these characters?
Yes, they hate them.
Okay.
Not everyone hates them, but there are some very sort of like divisive attitudes about
these one-off characters. Do they return?
Yes. So
no one cares if you spoil this.
Okay, slight spoilers for Power Rangers RPM, but Jem and Gemma are not just one-off characters. They do.
Do they turn out to be the weird robot goons of?
No, they're not the weird robot goons. I will get into it later on in this plot description.
I didn't hate Jem and Gemma. They felt like characters on a fucking children's show.
That's very true. My problem with them is that, again, they are supposed to be twins who constantly finish each other's sentences. What did I do?
You dropped the coaster.
I dropped my coaster. Who constantly finish each other's sentences. And the actors have not worked on this gimmick enough to make it believable. So there are these horribly long pauses in between when one actor stops a sentence and another actor picks it up. And it's also a gimmick, and I prefer characters to be characters rather than gimmicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in general.
In Power Rangers especially.
In Power Rangers especially, yes. Billy from the original Power Rangers, complete character.
Yeah.
Completely, fully fleshed out character, not a nerd stereotype at all.
Blue Ranger.
The Blue Ranger, yeah.
Yes.
The horribly stereotypical nerd, yes.
Yes.
Who was ran off the set of Power Rangers in Season 4 by people using homophobic slurs against him.
I've heard that.
Yes. He's apparently much happier now.
I hope so.
We love David Yost. Thank you. Dr. K's birthday rolls around again, and this year Jem and Gemma are there to celebrate with her and get her a present, a big pencil.
Yay!
Yay!
Where did they get this?
They made
Did
it
they
themselves.
trade in enough hostage ticket to buy something from the school store?
The Alphabet Soup has a Joker's themed thing where if they do enough child labor, they get tickets to buy a super soaker or some shit.
Dr. K never left her little room.
That's true.
Jem and Gemma went out and found skee-ball. Everyone else in the facility is like, they're playing skee-ball. They're playing that thing where you shoot the balls at the teeth.
Yeah. If Dr. K had only gone out of her room every once in a while, she'd realize that this particular child slavery bunker is a fun one.
Yeah, it's like a Peter Pan type kidnapping.
It's like the nightclub, the video game nightclub from Hackers out there. It's so much fun.
Sure, you can do dangerous science.
Yeah.
To support the military-industrial complex.
Right.
Or you can go have a little fun.
Or you can have a little fun, you know?
It's really up to you. And
energy,
Dr. K just was like so isolationist. She never was like...
The energy with which you said, or you can have a little fun, is like just threw me back into Go-Gurt commercials from the early 2000s.
Did I ever tell you my idea for the perfect Go-Gurt commercial?
No, but I can't wait to hear it.
So this would have to be back before Go-Gurt was a thing. I'm talking like early 90s.
Okay.
The days of MC Hammer.
Right.
So...
Is MC Hammer in this commercial?
Yes.
Because already greenlit.
He's in it. Mm-hmm. And it starts off with him dancing with some kids. Mm-hmm. But they get tired because they're dancing so hard. He's like, I got a treat. And he pulls out some Go-Gurt. And there's some old fucking square off to the side who's like, please, Hammer, don't girt him. Close up on Hammer's face. He says, nah, I think I will. Starts fucking making it rain Go-Gurt on people.
I think it goes without saying, best commercial ever.
Yeah, I know.
Best commercial ever. Too good. Too good. Jem and Gemma get Dr. K a big pencil, saying that Dr. K is their friend. Dr. K, in another iconic line, says, Gemma, you should know, I don't even like you.
I enjoyed that too.
That was a great line.
But they had the great comeback.
Great comeback. We know. We can still like you, can't we? And again, tears.
Deeply sad and pathetic on Jem and Gemma's part. They have each other. They don't need this loser.
I think that
you're crying right now.
I'm getting close. Yeah. No, it's It is another thing where, like we talked about.
No, it's very sweet.
It's very sweet, and I think that there might be an element to it of. I hadn't thought this down this track, but then Brad watched this episode the first time and messaged me. He's like, "Is this therapy for you?" And I hadn't thought of it that way, but I was like, I do think that there's a Paddington 2 element of like.
It's tapping into some
stuff with me that I
mostly
have
thought,
not fully unpacked.
Because you grew up on a compound.
Right.
I thought this was like,
of course.
This is like, oh my God, someone's telling my story.
Right. Yes. I too was told that I was allergic to sunlight. I actually just was allergic to sunlight. Still am. That's why I'm a nerd. Dr. K is moved and dumbstruck by this.
Now they get her a big pencil, which apparently she uses, because we'll later see a flash forward. We'll go back to the present, and it's down to a nubbin.
Well,
what if they had gotten her like a big novelty comb? Do you think one, she would have used it, and two, when we go back to the present, it would have shrunk down to the size of a normal comb?
I think that she absolutely would have used it, because we do see her using the pencil in the very next part of the flashback.
Oh, is that another flashback? I couldn't remember.
Because she doesn't have any use for a pencil, Alphabet Soup is paperless.
Yes.
She uses her computers. She instead is typing with one hand and using the pencil sharpened down to a nub to type with the other hand, just so she can use this present that they gave her. Because it means so much to her. She feels like she has to use it, but she doesn't know how to use it. So she just sorts of hunts and pecks with one hand and types normal with the other one.
Gotcha.
And I thought that was so cute. But so yes, she absolutely, if that's the dedication that she gave to the pencil, absolutely she's using a comb. She might not use it as a comb, but she's using it somewhere.
I get what you mean. Fucking pervert.
You're picking up what I'm putting down.
Pervert.
Yeah. One day, I think this is the same scene where she's typing with a nub. One day she's fascinated to see a monarch butterfly in her lab.
Yeah. She sees this butterfly, and like I could tell this was out of place for a Power Rangers episode.
Yes, immediately.
Because I was like,
this episode is, again, you are right. This episode looks like shit. Like,
yeah.
the actual...
Again, it's a television show from 2009 that I'm watching on a large screen television.
Right, and the film quality is markedly worse than, honestly, most seasons of Power Rangers, which is a shame.
But it's not even the film quality. It's just that this character following a butterfly is happening in a fucking Power Rangers episode. Like, it's an odd bit of artistry.
When they take... Even though their stuff, it looks bad, they don't have a lot of resources to make it look good, they take those resources and they use them in really interesting ways. Like the scene, again, of Dr. K, just wordless. This is a silent scene. I cannot tell you how weird it is to have a silent scene in Power Rangers at all.
I know, it made me uncomfortable, so I was just yelling at my screen like, yeah! Like, why is there silence?
This is why you can never watch Charlie Chaplin movies, because you just start yelling.
Just incomprehensible gibberish. Just like...
just like loud man noises, but at the same... But like the an equivalent of the Donald Duck freak out. Just like... But yeah, Dr. K is just following this butterfly through the halls.
And I almost wondered if this was like a hallucination, if she was having like...
It almost feels like that.
Will Graham hallucinations. And then it was
God.
like, I want the Dr. K thriller. I want the Dr. K thriller.
Yes. I would love that. Oh my God, Brian Fuller's Power Rangers would be fucking incredible. Can you imagine? Holy shit.
Yeah, like I said, I want a Dark Power Rangers. I want
anything by a Dark Power Rangers.
Like I want to
say just real quick, because I know people are gonna try and tell me about this after this. I know
no one listens to this, and no one cares about Power Rangers.
If anybody who does care about Power Rangers or knows about this, that dark...
Do not indulge him.
That dark, edgy Power Rangers fan film that was popular a couple of years ago, I have seen it. It's a piece of shit. I want a different edgy version of Power Rangers, not that edgy version of Power Rangers. Well, that one was awful.
Our Dark Power Rangers is not called Power Rangers. It's not part of the official franchise.
Oh, I see. This is this is a knockoff that we're making here.
We're going to do Watchmen, but Power Rangers.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm on board.
Exactly Watchmen.
We're just going to
rip off the comic book script. And we're not going to change any of
word for fucking word.
Who's the Rorschach of Power Rangers?
Oh man, who's the Rorschach of Power Rangers? I'm gonna go. This is the only person I can think of. Andros from Power Rangers in Space.
So obvious.
So obvious, yeah. Fascinated to see a monarch butterfly. She follows it down the hall and follows it into a room where there is an open window, which seems like if you are trying to terrify children staying here, you probably shouldn't have left a window open. Idiots.
Yeah, and also I feel like this bunker should be like underground, like deep underground.
Yeah, you would think, but apparently not. But she follows this into a room with an open window. The butterfly flies through the window, and she's in the room before she realizes that there's sunlight. The sunlight hits her, and she realizes, I'm not dying. Mm-hmm. And she enjoys looking into the sunlight for a second.
This is where spend their entire budget for the season to obtain the Elton John song. I believe it's Someone Saved My Life Tonight. And we hear the strains of Butterfly, Fly Away, Highway, Bye-Bye. $60 million for that snippet.
And that's why the film quality looks like shit.
Yes.
Because $50 million.
They knew they needed that 5 seconds of an Elton John song.
Oh, man. But yes. Once again, Dr. K is shook out of her memories by a Venjix attack. This time, somehow, Venjix has managed to get... And this is why I remembered there being a foot soldier fight in the episode, even though there isn't.
They send drones.
The foot soldiers show up in, like, little fighter jet drone things.
Ventrix is Obama.
Exactly. Flying around and bombing the city, shooting people, or shooting buildings, maybe. And the Rangers have to run off to deal with them. But while they're off trying to fight these robots, it turns out Venjix's second in command, Tenaya 7, which is the robot that looks like a person.
Yes.
It was hiding inside the corpse of Reflex Bot 12. It was a setup all
along, and I was upset in the beginning. It was like, "Bud, you just had a dumb fucking robot heart attack," and that's way too convenient. But they Kaiser Soze'd me.
They Kaiser Soze'd you. You didn't. If you had looked behind you, you would have seen the robot is ARC and written on the wall behind you. Dr. K is now alone in the base with the terrifying killer robot Tenaya 7.
Who's just acting like shit all over the place.
Just acting like shit all over the place.
I'm sure she's a lovely person.
I'm sure she's great.
I don't understand how she got this role.
She is also, unfortunately, one of the actors who's having the most trouble hiding their New Zealand accent. It is blatant. In some seasons, they just let characters have New Zealand accents. I wish they had just let her have one.
Yeah.
Because why not? People have New Zealand accents. It's okay.
Robots can have New Zealand accents.
Sure.
There are robots and Transformers that have Scottish accents.
In the 80s, everyone was fine with the fact that the killer robot from the future had an Austrian accent. We'll deal with it.
Yeah, well, we expect people from that part of the world to kill people, so...
You said that so seriously.
I don't want to offend anybody, but just that whole
thing, huh?
Germany region. I understand Austria isn't Germany, but from American geography,
right? Yeah,
Austria is basically Germany,
right? Just how Belgium is basically France.
Sure.
Dr. K, as it turns out, is not entirely unprepared. She has giant laser cannons that she uses to fend off
behind her desk.
Just right behind her desk. Yeah,
like she's the fucking overseer in Fallout.
Yes, she, as we learned in a previous episode of the show, she also has them hidden in the refrigerator if any of the Power Rangers try and steal her snacks.
That's funny.
Yeah. Tenaya 7 destroys the laser cannons with her double-barrel finger guns, then takes over Dr. K's workstation and starts fucking with the Rangers, taking remote control of their Zords. Dr. K knocks Tenaya 7 into a tube, holds her captive temporarily, and tries to undo the damage she's done.
Oh, doesn't she, knock off her hand?
I think she does. Yeah, she knocks off the gun hand and shoves her in a tube.
Not that that's important. I just wanted to prove I was paying attention.
Right. Knocks her into a pneumatic tube and
sends her to the bank.
Gets her deposited. As the situation is getting worse, Dr. K once again flashes back to explaining to Jem and Gemma that none of them are allergic to the sun. They have been lied to, and she wants to escape and bring Jem and Gemma with her.
Who needs someone to populate the new world?
The way to Dr. K's heart is a big pencil, as it turns out. Mm-hmm. One of the programs Dr. K has been working on for Alphabet Soup is a virus she calls Venjix. And
she did the thing.
She did the thing. And she figures if she uploads it wirelessly to Alphabet Soup servers, it will fuck things up enough that they can escape undetected. But she just needs to add a little bit of extra stuff that she has on this USB drive that will, because Venjix is a self-replicating and sentient program, she needs to put in a failsafe that will kill it if it tries to get outside of Alphabet Soup's systems. Before she's able to do that, it turns out just having Venjix at all was enough to alert Alphabet Soup that she was about to escape, because a bunch of foot soldiers come in and take her away.
I imagine they keep pretty tight surveillance of these people.
I would imagine they only have, 3 children in here that they're torturing. As far as we know, there could be others. But she's unable to install the final safeguards on Venjix, and she says that he's going to, if he ever gets out of the Alphabet Soup system into the regular internet, he'll grow exponentially and take over the world. And Venjix is sadly not played by David Warner, but I wish.
Yeah.
Again, he played the Loeb in Freakazoid. It's not exactly something he would be opposed to doing, I don't think. I mean, he probably would be opposed to doing a non-union work, but still.
Yeah. I don't think he'd go to New Zealand. David Warner hates Kiwis.
David Warner famously hates Kiwis.
The bird, specifically.
The bird and the fruit, not the people.
Yeah.
Both the bird and the fruit.
And the shoe polish.
And the shoe polish, hates all three. Absolutely hates them.
Calls it the Kiwi triple threat.
It's written into
he sees any of them, he breaks out in hives.
It was written into his contract for In the Mouth of Madness that they had to keep all 3 off the set.
Yes.
At all.
And they had a dilly of a time with those birds.
He got really nervous working with
Sam Neill,
but he realized that's when he realized that a Kiwi could also be a person.
Yes.
And he realized he had some self-examination he needed to do.
But part of Sam Neill's contract was he had to have a dozen Kiwi birds in his trailer. That's how he slept.
He just slept on a bed of Kiwis.
Yes. And he rode them around.
And he had omelets with kiwi, the fruit, in them every morning. So David Warner,
that sounds gross.
Sam Neill's a weird dude, man.
He was traumatized on the set of Jurassic Park, and this is just how he gets through.
This is how he gets through.
Kiwi omelets.
David Warner was very terrified of Sam Neill's breath on the set of that movie. Just a note: Power Rangers usually, not always, but usually has a rock and roll soundtrack, and it fucking rules.
Sure.
I love the soundtrack. I tried to find the soundtrack to this episode after watching it, just because I love the score so much, but they don't release that stuff. Tenaya 7 uses her ability to make her robot hand that she knocked off run around like Thing from the Addams Family to escape. She moves to kill...
This is a great remake of Doctor Strangelove.
Yes.
It's bold.
It is.
It's bold.
It's innovative.
It's... Something like this could only come from visionary director Zack Snyder. But it didn't, so I guess I'm wrong.
Yes, she moves to kill Dr. K while Venjix unleashes a second Reflex bot to fight the Rangers again.
Yes, it was established earlier that he had 2.
Yes. And this one has shoulder pads, so you know it's way more dangerous.
So you know he's ready to play football.
Dr. K runs away, gets her hands on a big ray gun, or a sonic blaster, I think they call it, and starts blasting at Tenaya 7. And she's only just able to hit a button to allow the Rangers to combine into their Megazords. But this Reflex bot is just as tough as the last one, and it just knocks their Zords apart. They are immediately defeated.
End of show. Roll credits. Something unpredictable that in the end is right.
It ends just like Sopranos. It just goes right to black, but instead it plays that song.
Which is how every show in the 90s ended.
It's how every show in the... It is surprisingly that everyone kind of freaked out when Sopranos ended, when really it was just an homage to the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tanaya 7 starts hiding and menacingly whistling. Just menacingly wolf whistling at Dr. K. Dr. K can't shoot her, and she's freaking out. Again, this is way scarier than Power Rangers usually gets to go. We never have like a villain taunt a hero like this. And she says to Dr. K, "You pride yourself on how smart you are, aren't you? But you still royally messed up, didn't you?" Clearly talking about the situation she's currently in.
Yeah.
But to Dr. K...
Dr. K's like, oh my god, a witness. I need to murk this bitch.
Pretty much. She's it's digging into her trauma and guilt over literally having the blood of almost everyone on Earth on her hands.
Oh, it makes her so much hotter.
It's an unattainability thing.
No, it's
you
just
can't
like,
attain her because you're dead.
Man. Well,
Yeah.
not in my head canon.
Not in your head canon.
My head canon, I'm shipping us hard.
Oh, okay.
I'm like a guard, works near her. I'm like, hey, so you like apocalypses?
That's your line. You like apocalypses?
She's there, I'm there. It's an apocalypse. We have that in common.
You know what? You got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
you got to start
like,
with your the common denominator. Work from there.
Robots, am I right? Killing everybody but us.
Oh man. You know what? I think you got an in. I think you got an in there.
And I'm like, hey, that's a nice lab coat. That's how I know you're a scientist.
Kay goes,
I really enjoy your bob.
Your or hair bob,
Yes.
right? Dr. K goes full Predator, just shooting rapidly and randomly into random directions while crying. Cut to just like Arnie in Predator, just full crying while shooting his Gatling gun.
Violence is never the answer.
Cut to another flashback, still in the Alphabet Soup bunker. Dr. K records the message played in the opening of every episode and in the beginning of the first episode in more detail, calling on the survivors of the apocalypse to retreat to the city of Corinth. She gathers up the remaining equipment for the Power Rangers program, and she is stopped by her faceless handlers, who even in this scene we don't get to see them.
No. But they are honkies.
They are indeed honkies. You were right. They are only concerned. They don't care that the world's ending. They don't care about getting the Power Rangers tech out of there. All that they care about is legal culpability. They realize that because Vengeance was created in Alphabet Soup, if they let anyone escape, that's a witness, as you said. And
can I get a witness?
Whoop! And they all need to die, and so they're good. They pull out the most realistic guns I've ever seen in the Power Rangers. Episode to murk Dr. K where she stands. But Gem and Gemma show up and beat the shit out of them off screen.
Off screen, and I'm glad in this martial arts show we don't get to see them. Do anything.
Yeah,
we just get some cartoon sound effects.
Yep.
Glass shatters, a cat yowls.
This is I think maybe the only episode of Power Rangers I've ever seen with no martial arts in it at all. And you would think that I would count that as a point against it. You clearly do, but
I do. I hold it 100% against it.
It's like that's the one thing you watch Power Rangers for is martial arts.
The 1,000 times a day I watch Power Rangers. That's what I watch it for. I watch it for kata.
Right.
I watch it for forms.
Of course. Yes. So Gem and Gemma say that they need to grab the last two morphers that they don't have yet. The morphers for the Silver and Gold Rangers. They run down the hall and an explosion takes place. Silver and gold.
Oh, it's a Rankin Bass tie-in.
It's a Rankin Bass tie-in.
Finally, the multiverse we need. Power Rangers and Rankin Bass.
Later in the season, they cross over into The Hobbit. Man, Lord of the Rings, we brought full circle.
Oh.
But yes, Gem and Gemma, they are killed in an explosion. Now, Brad, you clearly thought that these characters were one-off characters.
I assume, because
did you think that they were dead?
I did. I even made the note they did Gem and Gemma so fucking dirty.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like these characters who showed empathy, who showed kindness.
They're pretty endearing in this episode.
Yeah, I was like, that's fucking dumb for one-off characters. Do they come back as Power Rangers?
Yes.
Okay.
So
once you said they were going, I didn't catch this bit where they were going for morphers.
Yeah.
Because I was unsure of like, because again, I was operating on this idea of like, oh yeah, there's a generation of Power Rangers, and then they pass the shit on to another generation of Power Rangers.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, I didn't really get that Dr. K made the morphers.
Right. So you weren't coming at this from the context of this is a self-contained story. You thought that this was continuing off of the continuity of previous seasons.
Yes.
I gotcha. But yeah, though they run off and I don't think they say morphers. I think they say we need to get the gold and silver series.
Yes, they do say that. Which I didn't fucking understand.
Right.
That's what happened.
There you go. But that's in reference to, like, again, the designations when you say Ranger Series Yellow.
Yes.
You're talking about the gold and silver series.
Now, because you were like, they don't say morphers, I was like, transmogrifiers. And that made me think of Black Dynamite, and I can't remember the quote exactly, but damn you, treacherous Dr. Wu, your zest for kung fu treachery is only outmatched by your zeal for biological transmogrification.
But Black Dynamite,
I sell drugs to the community.
I sell killer robots to the community.
I'm declaring war on anyone who sells drugs to the community. Chocolate Kitty up.
What an incredible film.
I know.
But yeah, for me, I'm a huge fan of Power Rangers. I don't know if I've mentioned that. I don't know if that's
at almost 2 hours into this episode about a 22-minute show.
I don't know if this has come up, but so I know what show I'm watching. It's a very well-worn cliche in Power Rangers at this point that they kill someone off and then they come back later.
So it's comic book rules.
It's comic book rules. They
Cider
have
House
these
rules.
two kooky characters who are clearly meant to not just be one-off characters. Like they're two.
Okay, you were picking up on tropes that I had no clue about.
Exactly.
I was like,
these
goofballs don't have a reason to show up again. I guess I'm the rube Power Rangers would be targeting.
This is the Power Rangers jazz that we're talking about.
Hey. Smart looking fella, let me tell you about Gem and Gemma. I think they'll be around forever, if you know what I mean.
Power Rangers Nightmare Alley.
I wouldn't watch Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley. I guess
Guillermo del Toro.
Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Although I guess that's just Pacific Rim.
That is honestly kind of, yeah. The Pacific Rim is kind of entirely Power Rangers. But so when they die off camera, we don't get to see them die.
Unlike most Power Rangers episodes where you see the mangled corpses of the dead.
So many corpses. They're going off to find two morphers that up until this point in the series have never been mentioned before. So of course they're not gonna die. They're gonna come back and they're going to be Power Rangers.
Fucking idiot.
No, you don't know these tropes.
Oh, obviously. If you had finished college, Brad.
If you had only finished your doctorate in Power Ranger studies.
Everyone on goddamn Earth knows that Gem and Gem are coming back.
Morphonautics 101.
What did you eat? What?
Morphonautics 101.
Okay.
They always say morphonautical in
like,
Power Rangers.
Okay.
That's
feel
their
like
whole
the bit's
thing.
Dead now. I was gonna way to fucking just
kill the bit.
Just no,
but
morphonautics? That sounds like a cuss. You know I don't like cusses. I like curse words.
Right.
I like swears.
Yes.
I don't like cusses.
No cusses. No cusses, Brad. That's what we call you.
That's my cowboy name.
That's your cowboy name.
That's my outlaw name.
No cusses, Brad.
I shoot any man who cusses. Again, if he swears.
Right.
If he says a curse word.
Right.
We're good.
Yes.
If he cusses, bullet to the brain.
You see morphonautics?
Fucking Han Solo him.
Han Solo him under the table.
Except it's different because I wasn't in danger.
Yeah.
He just used language I didn't like, so I murdered him.
Oh man, we learn something new every day on this show. But yes, Olivia Tennant does not play this scene with the wink and the nudge that Power Rangers normally does with character deaths.
Oh, so she's doing her job as an actress?
Exactly. Yes.
That's why I didn't pick up on it, because I just expect actors to do a good job acting.
She's like fully like screaming and like fully acting the trauma of this moment to the point where even though, again, as a Power Rangers fan, I'm fully immersed in these tropes. I know what's going on. I know what they're doing. I'm fully invested in this moment watching this episode. Even though we get to this moment of a person realizing that they have not only killed a majority of Earth's population, she has also managed through her actions to kill the only two people who ever loved her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there.
Thursdays, am I right?
Oh my God, every Thursday. See, the killing most of humanity is the easy part.
Right, yeah, that's easy.
Bringing it back so no one notices. Mm-hmm. Call me Dr. Quinn, 'cause I'm a medicine woman.
We cut back to the present. Tanaya 7 shows up with a Reflex Spot's mirror, saying she likes Dr. K's weapon and wants one of her own. She opens the mirror, and Dr. K ducks out of the path super quick, so that the mirror creates a duplicate of the doohickey that she needed earlier in the episode. Makes it easy.
Makes Odysseus proud. Such cleverness.
Such cleverness.
And I mean, this does harken back a lot to Greek myth. Corinth,
absolutely. Corinth.
I noticed another parallel earlier that I didn't mention because I didn't think I'd bring up this Greek thing again.
Just the idea of the mirror, Medusa.
Sure,
Perseus.
yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The myth that invented mirrors.
Mirrors didn't exist before that. Dr. K very quickly installs it. Somehow, even after being overpowered by Tanaya 7 this entire episode, just kind of lightly pushes Tanaya 7 out of the way and immediately installs this device and programs the Zords with a new Megazord
Now they can all combine into one. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream has come true.
Exactly, his dream. The new Megazord...
I have a dream that all Zords will be as one.
Oh, what a visionary that
Rest
man.
in power.
Rest in power, Martin Luther King Jr.
And rest in power, Rangers.
Rest in power, Rangers. Weird tangent.
Where is this going to go?
Ron Wasserman, who I've referred to several times, who wrote the songs for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, as well as several other seasons, said the only song for Power Rangers he ever really regretted writing was a song he wrote to celebrate the premiere of the character of the White Ranger that you talked about, because the lyrics were,
oh no,
White Ranger, Tiger Power,
no.
White Ranger, Tiger Power.
I saw where that was
and
going.
he realized way too late, after way too many of the episodes with this song and it had aired, that he had put the words white and power way too close together.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
At least they were separated by Ranger and Tiger, but still.
Sure, yeah. No, there's a difference. But
yes.
Yeah, not the best.
Not the best, and he's not a fan of that particular song of his.
No, that's good. I'm glad he's distanced himself.
Yeah.
Granted, Aryan Nation is practically their anthem. Is the damage already done? Maybe.
Who's
That's
to
up
say?
for God to judge.
I think that the worst part was when Donald Trump played it at his inauguration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did like a quarter lap with a piece of the aggro crag. He didn't quite make it all the round.
Right. Yeah.
All around, sorry.
All around, although he claimed that he had later.
Yes.
But yes, the new Megazord is...
Sorry, I just imagined Donald Trump today on Guts back in the 90s. And he's in the harness, he's playing like the hoop, like the basketball with the bungees.
What an absolutely trippy image.
Yeah, no.
The new Megazord is so...
Hey, I could write for Robot Chicken.
It's just that easy. The new Megazord is so fast, it shatters the mirror on the Reflex Bot before it can duplicate any of their stuff.
Through a lens darkly, go fuck yourself.
Tanaya 7 is livid, convinced that Dr. K must have planned this whole thing somehow.
And she did.
Yeah. I mean, Tanaya said... There are two ways to read the scene.
Yeah. Granted.
Tanaya 7
sure.
says...
Anytime anybody says anything, you could be like, that's either real or it's not.
Tanaya 7 says, how much of this was your doing? And Dr. K says, all of it. But that doesn't really match up with what we've seen. Like, this whole plot was created by Venjix. We can imagine that maybe she thought to herself, there's no way that robot had a heart attack. Bring it to my lab. I bet I can futz with some stuff. Or maybe she thought, oh, that robot has duplicating powers. I can use that to create a new thing. But I don't think that that's what she's saying. I think that when Tanaya 7 says, how much of this was your doing, and she says all of it.
Oh, she's talking about the Holocaust of humanity.
Yes, I think she's talking about the world we live in is all me. I am the architect.
How solipsistic. What a bitch.
I am become death destroyer of worlds. A line from this episode and nowhere else. Everything that Venjix does in her mind is something that she's done. So even Venjix's plans are her plans.
So even if Venjix were to wipe out humanity,
Yeah.
its success would be her success.
In her mind, I believe that is correct.
A win's a win.
Sure, we'll say that. But yeah, she gets a replicate of her doohickey, and she also reveals that she definitely did let Tanaya 7 stay in the lab for longer than she needed to, because she had an ace in her up her sleeve the entire time. She pulls up her violin and starts playing it, again accessing her computer to activate a big wind tunnel that sucks Tanaya 7 out of there like a vacuum cleaner.
And my final note, Dr. K chopped up some dickhead to bits like a G.
Pretty awesome. Also, in another moment of unusual artistry for the show, as she plays her violin...
A full male nude!
As she plays her violin, we cut back to the Rangers, but we still hear her playing her violin the entire time as they finally destroy the reflex spot.
Sound Design 101.
The music Dr. K played in her lab as her only escape from the abuse and neglect she suffered is now the music she plays to as she tries to rebuild her life. We cut once again to a flashback as Dr. K wanders through the wreckage of the old world, a world where all life has been exterminated, where Venjix sought out to destroy even the flowers, and all the butterflies are now dead. We cut back to the present. Dr. K stands in her lab, technically victorious, but definitely not feeling like it. She walks away to clean up, and we see that the silver and gold ribbons that Jem and Jebba had tied around her present are tied to her workstation. Cut to a title card that reads Power Rangers RPM.
Ooh.
And one final bit of behind-the-scenes information. Eddie Gazillion was a name I couldn't remember earlier.
Mm-hmm. Eddie Gazillionaire.
Eddie the Gazillionaire was fired halfway through this season.
Oh, I thought you meant halfway through this episode. Nope. Nope. Not gonna happen.
Halfway through the season, he was fired, and the way he was fired... He took all of the writers that had worked for him and all of the scripts that they had written for the last half of the season with them. So they hired veteran Power Rangers producer and showrunner Judd Lynn back to finish.
Always trust a man named Judd.
And finished out the season. Because of this, the first half of the season has all these like mature more artistic aspirations to it. It's okay if you don't think that the show achieved what he was trying to go for, but it is trying for something, and I think that's very interesting. But the second half of the season is...
Bog standard?
Not bog standard, because it still has to pick up the pieces. Pog standard, exactly. It's standard, but a little bit more poggers. So the first half of RPM, to me, stands as this weird testament to what this franchise could be, what I've always thought it could be, and what the show almost achieved of itself within that sort of
It almost transcended itself.
It did, kind of. Like, this episode, I feel like you're being sarcastic.
No, a little bit. How much longer are you going to go on? Because I need to piss.
Like 5 more seconds.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not trying to rush you.
I understand completely. I think that this episode is the closest Power Rangers has ever come to achieving something that I would call art.
Gotcha.
And also really gets to me emotionally, which maybe says more about me than it does about the episode. But by the end of this episode, when I'm watching her walk through the wreckage, I'm in full fucking tears.
I walk a lonely road along the boulevard of broken dreams.
Playing the violin.
Again, a track requisitioned by the director. That's why they fired him, because he was spending $160 million on music rights.
On music rights. Any final thoughts, Brad?
No.
thank you very much for letting me do this to you.
Absolutely. Again, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you got to talk about this thing you like.
It's been something I wanted to talk about in some way for a long time.
You could have hired a therapist.
And next week, it is the 50th episode of this show.
And I am going to show Billy one of the wildest, craziest, most goddamn insane movies ever made by the madman director Alejandro Jodorowsky. I've never been sure.
Yeah.
I watched a documentary about the man. Still not sure.
Still not sure.
We are going to watch Holy Mountain. It will not be a regular episode.
No.
I'm not taking story notes on this.
No.
I'm going to show it to Billy, and it probably won't be a good episode because he'll be in a stupor, and I would just be like, hey, remember this? And I'll be like, yeah. But tune in for episode 50.
Tune in for episode 50 where we watch a movie that I am fully terrified of.
You should be.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Tune in next week if I'm still alive.